Welcome to Conversations with Jen and Mel. This show is about real life with real people, having real conversations, from better health to mental health and more. Let's check out the conversation right now with your host, Jen and Mel.
Welcome to Conversations with Jen and Mel. Today's topic is boundaries.
Takers!
When do we set them and when do we enforce them?
Oh, always. Necessary habitual line steppers exist.
Yes, there's the saying that takers don't know when to stop taking.
Takers never stop taking. And so it's so funny because when you think of people who are takers, you think of, what do we think of? Different walks of life, like not just in our family relationships, but in school, in church, and in our community, and some people just never stop taking. It doesn't matter how much you give.
Yes, they want some more.
They want some more. And so nothing is ever enough. And so I remember a guy saying to me a few weeks ago, he said, the only person, I'm a married woman. Wait a minute, hold up. I'm a happily married woman. And so serving my husband is my priority and my preference. Even when he's like, I don't need all of that. I'm like, but it's an honor to serve him. But God was like, in this season, he said, the only person you need to worry about is me.
Mm.
The only person you need approval is me. And so sometimes takers take and givers give, and not always just because they're kind. They feel like, okay, we have those that give because they feel like, okay, well, they always need to come to someone's rescue.
Mm-hmm.
And then you have others that give because they're uncertain as to how that relationship will work otherwise. And so they need your approval. And they think that you approving of them in exchange for your gift means they actually like you. No, you don't always like me. You like what I can do for you.
Yes.
You like the benefits of me versus me. And so I think that that's when boundaries are enforced, because when you find that you're in a relationship and that relationship is not reciprocal, then it's time to pull back and say, okay, maybe I need to view this from a different vantage point. Maybe I need to draw my heart out of it and see this for what it really is. And you know what? And how you can tell when you stop giving?
Right.
You'll find that the calls start ceasing. The concern is elsewhere. And you are no longer their priority. So I think boundaries are important, especially when you find someone that you give and all they do is take and is never reciprocated.
Correct.
Yeah. So what do you think?
The same, that you need to you're constantly setting boundaries, I think.
Yes.
And you should be enforcing the boundaries that you set.
Yes.
Because if you let people continually cross the boundaries,
They become a
then
bit
you
too
don't have
concept.
one.
Yes.
It's not one if you're not going to enforce it.
Nope. And talk won't do.
And people treat you the way that you allow them.
Yes. And talk won't do. We do a lot of talking.
Mm-hmm.
Even
with raising kids.
Yes.
They tell you, all that talking, they go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah. But what you gonna do about it?
Consequences to the actions.
Yeah. And I think that especially as women, and women in relationships a lot, well, not just women, but as a woman I'm speaking, but not just as women, but as a woman, we do a lot of giving, self-sacrificing, then compromising ourselves and tolerating and to keep allowing him to be for love's sake. So let's just talk about for love's sake. So why are we doing it for love's sake? Oh, I'm supposed to give because I love you, because I love you, because I love you. Wait a minute. At some point, setting healthy boundaries and doing something different has nothing to do with the love of another individual. But now I'm setting the healthy boundaries because you no longer allow me to have self-love. My love for you and self-love can't coexist, apparently.
Right.
Because you keep making me choose you when I should be choosing myself, because nobody's choosing me. So I think that setting boundaries is important. And I think anything that's going to be sustained is going to require us to have some type of boundaries.
Yes.
Especially for those who need it, you know? So my mother used to say, I remember I would hear people say, oh, they're too nice. I'm like, wow. And so I was raised where my mother would say, too nice? There's no such thing as too nice. And then as I got older, when I was a kid, I spoke as a child. And so I would meet a guy and he was really, really nice. Mm-hmm. And it was like, oh, he's too nice. Then as I began to mature, I realized, too nice? You can't be too nice to me.
Right.
And so I've been in a place where I've needed to set boundaries, and I call myself setting boundaries, and then I would go back on my word. Then what would change was the standard. Mm-hmm. So where it was almost like, you know, that pole that gets higher and higher. What's that pole that they jump over?
The one you jump over? Yeah, because the other one got lower. I
don't know. And it goes higher and higher and higher. And they're jumping over
the high bar? Is it called the high bar?
The high bar?
Maybe.
And so instead, the standard was getting lower. In reverse, the standard was getting lower and lower and lower. Every time something happened, I was tolerating more and more and more until the standard didn't exist. But then when you look back on it, it's like, okay, well, who's to blame? And so then I remember thinking, okay, well, somebody was too nice. And now that I'm grown, if I saw my relationship with my husband, I would say, oh, I'm too nice. Right. But then I would look back at him and say, oh, he's too nice. And so there's no standard that needs to be set because it's reciprocal. He's taking, I'm giving, he's taking. But you don't always get that.
All right.
And it has not always been that.
Right. But I think when you're dating or when, especially younger you probably equated being too nice with being a pushover or being boring.
Boring.
It's like definitely boring.
Boring.
Because I think we don't want somebody that's a doormat. It's going to be a doormat.
I probably need someone with a little personality. not maybe
is that personality because you have boundaries and standards and no, I think that's more than personality.
Because I'm strong-willed and sometimes I need someone to not just always say yes. I need someone to say, reel it in.
I understand that.
Reel it in. Ooh, I just wanted to do a dance around the table, y'all. Because you have no idea. My husband's, even though he's agreeable, he'll reel it in. You know?
Yes.
And he'll set the standard. But, and so in marriage counseling, and one of my dear couples, it is just disheartening to see how there's been such a lack of boundaries that you find that they lose themselves because where they existed, it's now everything it's just void. So where the self was, the self no longer exists. Why? Because it is complied with so much throughout the course of the relationship. And then I see it over and over again. I see relationships where the boundaries have been broken, overlooked, interrupted. What would you say?
Pushed so far back that they're non-existent.
Pushed so far back that they're non-existent. And so why did the boundaries exist? To protect self. There were boundaries that I needed in order to protect myself.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I always say this, it's hard in a relationship or in a marriage, especially when you're in a marriage where you have to protect yourself from the very thing that was meant to protect you.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you have these boundaries that exist that no longer exist. And so now I have no protection. I'm not standing up for me. You're not standing up for me. And so now you've walked all over me until the me no longer exists. And so we do this in so many relationships. And so I see parents do this with their children all the time. So where they think they're doing it for the sake of love, where they told their child, okay, well, no. Okay, you can have it. Okay, not in my house. Okay, then it might as well. Oh, we're not going to do this way. Oh, you can. Until now, you've done this because you had such a hard time leaning into your no that now instead of empowering your child, you've crippled your child. Because we're not raising children to grow up and be big children, big kids. We're raising children to have boundaries and to grow up and to be able to accept a fine line, be able to accept the no, to understand that life is going to have its rules and regulations and to follow them. And so another thing is, I believe that a lot of these things that we got labeled as disorders, these children haven't been trained up. So now you got big kids that's untrained running around here in adult shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where there were no boundaries set, no discipline. No discipline. And so now we got a bunch of undisciplined grown-ups that it could have been taken care of as. Mm-hmm. A bunch of entitled, undisciplined grown-ups. Yeah. That their parents failed to implement those boundaries. All right, what say ye, Jen? What say ye?
I don't know. I agree with what you have said so far.
And so, and now in the church, I think that, so, you know, I'm a church girl, and Jen been church all her life, church. Yeah, I should know this. Yeah. So,
yeah.
My experience with church has been
awesome, baby.
That you even have to set boundaries in the church. Why? Because there's still people.
Yes.
The church is filled with, guess what? People. With people. The church is not full of perfection. It ain't full of just Jesus. You know, the God in me loves the God in you, but the you in you is the problem. For real. And so sometimes it doesn't matter how much your time you give. They need some more. They need you to just one more thing. You can serve on 3 auxiliaries, have a whole family at home, but they need you to serve on the 4th. So what happens? We forget to enforce boundaries. So then home goes lacking. So then marriage is the problem in my marriage, because now the husband is like, you always at church and my house dirty. And then we want to overgive to the church. Not only we want to tithe, we want to tithe for our neighbor too. That's not including our offering. But I'm saying we want to give and give and give, and we find ourselves doing a bunch of good works versus holy works, doing what man is requiring of us and asking of us. And then we're mismanaging the very thing, the foundation that God has given us, and that's the family. Because we're so busy with the church. We forget that our marriage is our first ministry. We forget that our family is the foundation of, because we're so busy giving back to the church. We're trying to sustain the church when our household is off balance. Now, I didn't say what God is requiring, because I believe with all my heart, I'm of a surety that God will cause us to sow sacrificially. But making sure that it is God that's requiring that of you versus a man enforcing that.
Or yourself.
Or yourself.
For reasons.
Yep. Yes. 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 Hold up. For reasons. And sometimes we have our own selfish motives because we want to be recognized that we do so much. You know, hey,
sometimes it's not always for other people's recognition. Sometimes we're staying busy because of our internal anxieties or inability to be still.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And so we have our hands in so many different things because we're trying to satisfy that internal whatever's going on.
I love that. I love that someone said that earlier. And someone said that and it was asking me that about myself. They're like, you know, I find that you do a lot and I see that you're so strong. You know, do we want to make sure that you're not busy because you're not working on trying to distract yourself from? And so what people don't know about me is they see my busyness, but they don't see my isolation. I am one who, you see me while I'm moving, but you don't understand the moments of isolation, because at home, I spend a lot of time in isolation to prepare myself in order to get out and to give. Because I found that in order for me to maintain balance with everything that I carry, I need those moments of, so I enforce boundaries. Where my time used to be, I used to be available all the time, where you could just call me and I was accessible, and I was, even though I had clients that would call me in the middle of the night, I was picking up the phone. But I realized, hold on, I'm picking up my phone in the middle of the night to answer your call. And so now you think that this is the norm.
Yes.
So the house ain't on fire, but you and your boo, who should have both been asleep, y'all calling me in the middle of the night because y'all in an argument, in a heated discussion? You disrupted my household.
Mm.
So I had to enforce boundaries.
Yes.
Yep, I had to enforce boundaries. And so with my clients, with my phone calls, with my phone is on vibrate. No, seriously, my phone is on vibrate. It stays on vibrate.
Okay.
If I don't have it on my hip, I don't know it's ringing. Like, and so I have to enforce boundaries because I need that isolation to make sure, like we said earlier, that the busyness isn't me being busy because I'm trying to not deal with, or that's a coping skill, a coping mechanism for me. And so I have to make sure that I'm settled enough to deal with the world, and that I'm not so busy being busy that I can't hear God, and that I can't deal with the things that life presents. And so you're right. And so what else do you think? That was a good point. That was good.
I am often accused of staying busy as a distraction, but I don't think that that's true.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do know how to turn it off.
Yeah.
And when I decide to not take anything else on my plate, I don't have a problem with saying, no, I cannot. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Yeah.
God, I'm not available.
Jen like her money, y'all.
I do like my money.
Jen is like, listen.
But I will cut the phone off or not answer. It could be ringing and I'll be looking at it. I'll be looking at it. I hope you leave a voicemail because I'm going to get back to you next business day. Mm-hmm. And I like to take vacations where the focus is on my family and my self-care.
Amen. Self-care boundaries. Boundaries. She needs some self-care. So I remember growing up, and my mother was always busy. But I also understood that in her busyness, that her boundaries were, she needed a certain amount of time. After this time, she was not accessible. Like grandma stepped in.
Okay.
Like after
Okay.
like a certain time, it was grandma. Because my mom was young. She was widowed at 26. And so after a certain time, grandma stepped in. It was like after, okay, mom has this shift, grandma has this shift, and they both made sure that they were on their shift. And that was the boundaries in the household. Like, leave her alone after this time, because she has worked all day, around the house. She has fed you. She helped you with your homework. She did your hair, got your clothes, and everything that she did. Now give her a break. And so my grandmother helped to set the standard as to what boundaries look like in our household. But she was married to a habitual line stepper. Now, my granddaddy was always trying to step over boundaries. It didn't matter. But in their relationship, my grandmother was very good at always trying to set the standard. Because it was so many things she overlooked, but she stood for, and that was it. And so I think that's important, because our boundaries are part of our self-preservation.
Yes.
They're part of our self-care. And so we don't have to feel bad about having boundaries. And so we were just having this conversation earlier, and I was just talking about the person that I was 4 years ago. I'm not that person now. And the boundaries that I had 4 years ago and that I have now completely different, because the bar was set so low 4 years ago because there was a level of validation and acceptance that I was still looking for that I hadn't received in my first marriage, and I was much younger. I mean, 4 years ago, it seems like for some of us, 4 years can be a lifetime.
Yeah.
It can be a time of real growth and transformation. I can think of certain periods where 3 and 4 years, it was really a metamorphosis that was happening. And so who I was 4 years ago, oh my gosh, the foolishness that I remember tolerating and the things that I just dealt with and dealt passively with, versus try that now.
Okay.
And so
That's hilarious.
no, I'm so serious. Like, and the least I'm gonna do, and then my husband, and you all gonna hear me say this again. One of my boundaries is when you no longer have boundaries with me and you start crossing boundaries and you no longer feel the need to respect me, or I feel tolerated by you, then trust, I'm going to set the standard with a block. I'm going straight to your number and I'm going to push block. So I don't know if you calling me, if you not calling me.
We do not care.
I don't care.
We do not.
And that's how I'm preserving myself, and I'm guarding my own heart. So we all need those boundaries. How many of y'all folks got some boundaries that got folks on block? I mean, folks been on block for years. Just on block. Every time you get a new phone, the first thing you do is go back and put them on.
That's hilarious.
Ooh. So that's self-preservation.
It is.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anybody on block.
You don't have nobody on block?
I don't.
So
I just won't answer the phone. Or if I do answer the phone, you'll wish I hadn't.
listen,
I'm gonna get one or two. I won't answer, and you're gonna get the message, or I will answer, and you're gonna wish I didn't answer.
So, boundaries. When I find that someone has become so familiar with me that they get too loose mouth with me, then my first instance is to address it.
Okay.
But if I find that you just raggedy about the mouth with me, and that's just how you gonna stay, and that's your perception of what we gonna do, then you're gonna have to do that by yourself.
Yes.
Because those are my boundaries. But one of the things that I found, because I treat people in such an honorable way, because I love people, and so it's rare that people are flip-lipped with me. You know, that people are just going to say anything to me. And so I find that it's mostly how careless people are with you. You know, like they take your kindness for weakness. You know, or they borrow $5 and then they come back and get 10. And then they borrow $10 and then they come back and get 100. And then they borrow $100, then they come back and get 2. And at no point do you offer to get none of it back. And you done been around the world and and you ain't offered to get none of it back. You ain't sent me a DoorDash, a card, a pizza. And so now I've had to learn that I'm a giver. And that God has put me in people's lives to give. And then he has put me in people's lives to give for a season. And the season ain't forever. And so I've had to understand when my season is up. And that now is not time for me to give away what God gave me in order to pay my bills.
All right.
Because a lot of times we have a bad habit of not setting boundaries, giving away our last in the name of the Lord. And God is like, wait a minute, I gave that you to pay your DTE and you pay AT&T. I'm gonna need you.
Right. And now you sitting here looking dumb.
You know, I gave you know, it's yeah. That's real.
That is for real.
That's for real. And so what we call ourselves doing sometimes, we don't set healthy boundaries. We allow people to then put us in the position that God should have been and probably should have been all along. And then we end up without a defense. And so when we say money is the defense, now I gave all my money away. I ain't got no defense. And God's like, but I gave you that to protect you, and you gave it away. But you didn't have no boundaries. And remember in the beginning, I said, takers.
Don't stop taking.
Takers don't stop taking. And so understanding who is put in your life that you're supposed to be free with, to give with, to maybe let loose some of those boundaries, and who you need to enforce them with. Because sometimes we need to preserve ourselves. And if God asks you to do something, then understand that it says money is the defense. But if God asks you to do it, he is your first line of defense. But if he didn't ask you to do it, and then we better call on some grace and some mercy. So, all right. Stay tuned for more episodes of
Conversations with Jen and Mel.
Conversations with Jen and Mel. And we're talking about boundaries. So I don't mean to be funny. If some of y'all need to go back and reinforce some boundaries, then feel free to do so. Because it's some folks that y'all feeding, y'all should have been cut off for peace sake. That's all I'm saying. Good night.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Conversations with Jen and Mel. Please join us every Monday at 8 p.m. for new episodes on Facebook, YouTube, Rick.tv, and the Rick TV app by way of Apple TV, Fire TV, and Roku. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Join us again next time on Conversations with Jen and Mel.